In a world flooded with noise and shallow talk, the man who speaks with calm authority commands attention without ever raising his voice. This isn't about shouting to be heard. It's about speaking from a place of deep presence, unshaken by approval or rejection. When you learn to speak with clarity, strength, and intention, others begin to feel it. They pause. They listen. Because your words carry weight, not from volume, but from conviction. Stoic philosophy teaches that speech should be purposeful, deliberate, and rare. You speak not to impress, but to express what truly matters, and when you do, you become the kind of man others respect without question. In this video, we'll uncover 6 powerful principles that will transform the way you speak, so your words become a force of quiet influence. 1. Set boundaries and stick to them. This is not about building walls. It is about defining your terrain where you stand, what you protect, and what you refuse to allow. A man without boundaries is like a fortress with its gates wide open. He invites confusion, chaos, and control from others because he has not made his limits known. People push, not always with malice, but simply because they can, and over time, if you do not draw the line, they will walk right over you, not because they are evil, but because you allowed it. Stoic philosophy teaches us that external events are not ours to control. What is ours is how we respond. And part of that response is knowing what is acceptable and what is not, what builds us and what slowly breaks us down. Boundaries are not acts of hostility. They are acts of clarity. They say, "This is where I end and you begin." They say, "I value my time, my energy, my peace, and I will not hand them over cheaply." And when you live this truth, something shifts in the way people experience you. You no longer feel like a man trying to prove himself. You feel like a man who has nothing to prove, only something to protect. Most men who are disrespected are not disrespected because they are weak. They are disrespected because they are unclear. They say yes when they mean no. They explain when silence would serve them better. They let people interrupt, overstep, and invade their time, and then wonder why no one takes them seriously. But a man who is grounded, who knows his standards, does not need to announce them. His demeanor carries that message. His eyes say it before his mouth does. He is not confrontational, but he is immovable. He is not aggressive, but he is unyielding. If you want to be respected, begin with small acts of self-discipline. Protect your time. Do not answer calls that drain you. Do not agree to things just to avoid discomfort. Do not tolerate disrespect under the mask of being easygoing. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to live in alignment with your values. And that alignment will cost you. It will cost you certain people. It will cost you false peace. But what you gain is far greater. You gain self-respect. You gain clarity. You gain the calm certainty of a man who knows exactly what he will and will not accept. And remember this, every time you enforce a boundary, you teach the world how to treat you. If you allow disrespect once, you grant it permission to return. But if you confront it, even with few words and firm presence, you create a standard. And over time, people learn. They learn that you are not a man who entertains chaos. You are not a man who explains himself endlessly. You are not a man who bends every time the world leans on you. You are the still point, the calm force, the unmoved center. So if you want to command respect, stop asking for it. Live it. Speak less. Decide clearly. Act with finality. Do not fear who you lose by drawing the line. Fear who you become if you never do. Because a man without boundaries will eventually lose himself bit by bit, agreement by agreement, until he looks in the mirror and sees a man shaped by everyone else. But the Stoic man, the disciplined man, the man of presence, he holds the line. And because of that, the world steps back and listens. 2. Eliminate the "I'm sorry" habit. This one shift is deceptively simple, yet deeply transformative. Most men don't even realize how often they surrender their presence with 2 words. "I'm sorry." It slips out unconsciously, like a reflex trained by years of social conditioning. You apologize when you ask a question. You apologize when someone bumps into you. You even apologize for being in the room, for having an opinion, for taking up space. And each time you do, you reinforce a silent belief that your presence must be justified, softened, or excused, that you are somehow a burden, but you're not. The Stoic path demands clarity. It demands that a man knows his place not in arrogance, but in calm recognition of his own worth. You are not here to tiptoe around people's comfort. You are here to live deliberately, to act with integrity, and to speak when you have something worth saying. A Stoic man does not diminish himself to fit into the expectations of the crowd. He does not shrink to gain approval. He operates from principle, not from guilt, and his speech reflects that same strength. Every time you say sorry when you don't need to, you give away power. You tell the world, "I'm uncertain." You train others to expect weakness. And worst of all, you train yourself to believe that hesitation is normal. But it's not. A man who wants to be respected must first learn to respect his own voice. That means being precise. That means being intentional. That means replacing apology with ownership. If you're late, don't grovel. Acknowledge it with dignity. Thank you for waiting. If you have a question, don't approach it with shame. Ask it clearly. "I'd like to understand this better." And if you disagree, don't preface it with guilt. Simply state your truth. "I see this differently." You do not owe the world an apology for being present. You owe it your honesty, your strength, your clarity. The world doesn't respect the man who constantly seeks forgiveness for existing. It respects the man who speaks with self-control, whose words are measured, whose presence is anchored. And that presence is built moment by moment. Every time you resist the urge to undermine yourself, there will be moments when a true apology is necessary, when harm has been done, when your actions fall out of line with your values. In those moments, a sincere apology is not weakness. It is discipline. It is responsibility. But what we're talking about here is not the noble act of making amends. We're talking about the subtle, constant erosion of masculine presence through compulsive guilt. We're talking about the language of self-betrayal. And if you want to live like a man of purpose, you must cut it out at the root. From now on, let your words reflect your character. Let your tone carry your intent. Speak with calm. Deliberate energy. Look others in the eye, not with aggression, but with quiet assurance, and say only what needs to be said, nothing more, nothing less. People will notice. They may not be able to name it, but they'll feel it. They'll feel that when you speak, it comes from a deeper place, a place that doesn't flinch, a place that doesn't apologize for standing firm. And over time, that feeling creates respect, not the kind that can be begged for, not the kind that fades when you leave the room, but the kind that lasts, the kind that follows you, because they remember how they felt when you spoke, not loud, not disparity, but clear, calm, unshaken. And that, above all, is what separates a man who is heard from a man who is respected. 3. Know when to stop talking. One of the most overlooked powers a man can possess is restraint. The ability to say less, to speak only when needed, and to let silence carry more weight than unnecessary words. The world is full of noise. Men who talk endlessly to prove themselves, who over-explain, who dominate conversations to feel important. But a Stoic man is different. He speaks with intention, not out of compulsion. He is not afraid of silence. He does not need to be heard constantly to feel valid. His value is not measured by how much he says, but by how little he needs to say to make an impact. When he speaks, people listen, not because of volume, but because of presence. His words are chosen, measured, controlled, and when he stops speaking, he doesn't fidget or fill the silence. He lets it sit. He lets others feel it, because in that silence, there is strength, there is certainty, there is power. Most men fear silence because they fear what it reveals, that they're unsure, that they seek validation, that they don't fully believe in what they're saying. But the man who knows when to stop talking is the man who has nothing to prove. He knows the conversation doesn't need to be dominated. It needs to be directed. He knows that the most powerful statements are often followed by stillness. When you practice this restraint, people begin to feel a difference. You're not competing to be heard. You're commanding attention by not needing it. You're not throwing words into the void. You're speaking like a man who is fully present, fully grounded, and fully in control of himself. This isn't about being mysterious. It's about being deliberate. It's about showing others that your words matter because they come from a place of purpose, not performance. Speak clearly. Speak truthfully, and then stop. Let your silence speak the rest. Let it remind others that your value is not found in chatter, but in presence, in clarity, in discipline. The man who knows when to stop talking is the man who leaves the strongest impression, not because he said the most, but because he said what mattered and nothing more. 4. Master the art of pausing. In every interaction, in every confrontation, and in every moment of uncertainty, there is a space, a fraction of time where most men rush to fill the silence. They speak too soon. They defend themselves before a challenge is even clear. They respond to emotion with more emotion, and in doing so, they lose control. But the man who understands the power of the pause does something different. He waits. He breathes. He owns the space between stimulus and response. That pause is not weakness. It is discipline. It is strength under pressure. It is the unshakable signal that this man cannot be rushed, cannot be baited, and cannot be broken by noise. The Stoics taught that the mind must govern itself, that between what happens and how we respond lies our greatest freedom. The man who pauses chooses not just his words, but the energy behind them. He does not let the world drag him into chaos. He moves with calm clarity. And that clarity unnerves those who rely on confusion, speed, and emotional games to manipulate outcomes. When you pause, you show others that you are not emotionally enslaved. You are not pulled by urgency. You are not afraid of silence. And in a world that constantly demands reaction, silence becomes a weapon, silent, sharp, and commanding. Consider this in conflict. The first to speak often loses control. The one who stays silent, who holds the tension without flinching, instantly changes the dynamic. He forces others to lean in, to question, to wonder what he's thinking. And in that wondering, he gains ground, not because he's trying to win, but because he's not trying at all. He's simply being present, measured, and calm. This presence is not performative. It's not a trick. It's who he is. A man of depth. A man of weight. A man who doesn't flinch just because the moment gets loud. And this discipline must be trained. You build it when someone interrupts you, and instead of fighting for space, you pose, meet their eyes, and speak when it's time. You build it when emotions rise, and instead of exploding, you ground yourself, let them pass through you, and then respond from clarity. You build it when someone accuses you unfairly, and instead of defending yourself out of fear, you stay still, knowing that truth needs no panic. In every one of these moments, the pause becomes your edge, your shield, your mark of inner mastery. When you begin to pause before you speak, people notice. They sense something different, something firm, something rare. You're not a man who blinks. You're not a man who needs to prove anything. You're a man who commands attention through presence alone. And the moment you open your mouth, your words land heavier. They cut through the noise, not because you're louder, but because everything you say is chosen, not spilled. This is what Stoic leadership sounds like. It doesn't rush. It doesn't shout. It does not compete for attention. It stands in silence and lets others fall over themselves trying to fill the void. So begin now. Let silence work for you. Use the pause to anchor yourself. Let others speak in haste. While you watch, listen, and decide. And when you do speak, speak with calm fire, with precision, with conviction, because the man who masters the pause masters the moment, and the man who masters the moment masters his life. 5. Drop the gossip. If you seek to be a man of substance, of presence, of lasting influence, then you must rise above the poison of idle talk. Gossip is a cheap currency. It circulates easily, costs nothing, and yet destroys everything of value: trust, reputation, integrity. A man who gossips is a man who shows his weakness without even knowing it. He reveals that he needs distraction, that he feeds off comparison, that he cannot stand firmly within his own life, and so seeks refuge in the lives of others. The Stoic man does not entertain that game. He understands that every moment spent speaking of others is a moment stolen from building his own character. And so he remains quiet, not because he has nothing to say, but because he chooses not to lower himself to that level when others come to him with whispers about who failed, who cheated, who slipped. He listens with stillness, but he does not feed the flame. He does not contribute. He does not add his opinion for the sake of belonging, because he doesn't need to belong to a group built on weakness. He stands alone if he must. But he never steps down from his standard. In the Roman streets where Marcus Aurelius walked, in the schools where Epictetus taught, gossip was considered not just dishonorable, it was a sign of a distracted mind, a man not in command of himself, not focused on virtue, not committed to growth. You are here to rise, and to rise, you must stop looking sideways. You must stop using the failures of others as entertainment. You must stop wasting breath on things that do not concern your mission. And make no mistake, gossip isn't only about speaking, listening to it, laughing at it, or allowing it in your circle. These are forms of silent agreement. They say, I am willing to lower the standard if it means I stay comfortable. But comfort is not your path. Growth is, and growth demands silence, strength, and standards. When you refuse to gossip, people notice. At first, they may find you cold, too quiet, too distant. But in time, they will see what's really happening. You are a man who can be trusted, a man who is not swayed by groupthink, a man who protects the dignity of others, even when no one is watching. That kind of man is rare, and that kind of man earns respect without asking for it. You don't have to correct others. You don't have to preach. You simply have to stop engaging. If someone tries to pull you into gossip, pause. Let them feel the silence. Let them sense that your energy does not belong in low places. And if you speak, speak from principle. Say, I'm not interested in talking about people behind their back. Say it with calm, with weight, and then change the subject or walk away. Over time, you'll find that fewer people come to you with drama, not because they don't want to, but because they know they can't. They know you are not a man who bends for noise. This discipline will serve you everywhere. In relationships, it builds trust. In leadership, it earns loyalty. In your own mind, it clears the fog, because you stop feeding the part of you that is addicted to judgment, and you start feeding the part that seeks mastery, that seeks stillness, that seeks power not over others, but over yourself. Drop the gossip, and you rise, not just in reputation, but in essence. And that is the kind of presence no one forgets. Not loud, not boastful, just steady, just respected, just real. 6. Use humor without becoming a clown. There is immense power in humor when it flows from confidence, not insecurity. A well-timed remark can ease tension, disarm conflict, and show social intelligence. But the moment you begin using humor to seek approval, to avoid discomfort, or to mask your discomfort with yourself, you step out of your strength and into performance. The Stoic man knows that laughter is not weakness, but neither is it an escape. He does not chase the laugh to be liked. He does not speak just to get a reaction. His humor is rare, sharp, and intentional. It comes from observation, not exaggeration. It is controlled, not desperate. When he speaks, it may bring a smile, but it never begs for one. Many men fall into the trap of becoming the entertainer in the room. They make themselves the joke, thinking it will build connection. But all it does is signal that they are not to be taken seriously, that behind their smile is a fear of rejection, a fear of silence, a fear of not being enough without the laugh. You cannot command respect while putting yourself beneath others, even if you call it a joke. Humor, when used well, shows wit, restraint, and clarity. When used poorly, it reveals weakness. So pay attention to the source of your words. Are you trying to control how others see you? Are you diffusing your presence to be more likable? Are you laughing too often? Too loud? Too soon? That kind of energy may win temporary attention, but it never earns lasting respect. The Stoic man speaks with weight, and when he chooses humor, it enhances that weight. It does not distract from it. It adds to his presence. It does not dilute it. You do not need to be serious at all times, but you must never forget who you are. A man who sees clearly, a man who speaks when it matters, a man who does not rely on performance to feel accepted. So, use humor, but use it with control. Let it serve your strength, not cover your insecurity. And above all, never make yourself smaller just to make others laugh. Because the man who needs the room to laugh at him to feel valued has already abandoned himself. The man who stands firm and speaks with calm, deliberate humor, he is the one the room remembers, and the one they respect. In the end, it's not about speaking louder. It's about speaking with purpose. The way you use your words when you speak, how you speak, and when you choose not to shapes the way the world experiences you. You are not here to beg for respect. You are here to embody it. Through boundaries that hold firm, through pauses that command space, through silence that speaks louder than noise, through humor that reflects confidence, not desperation, through the refusal to gossip, and through the discipline to know when to stop. This is the voice of the Stoic man. Calm, measured, grounded, a voice that doesn't rise to meet chaos but brings stillness into it. So speak less, but mean more. Let your words be few, but full of weight. Let your presence say what your mouth no longer needs to. And when you walk away from the conversation, let your silence linger, because the man who speaks with clarity, strength, and inner mastery, he is the man they remember, and the man they respect,